Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and you might be like, oh Lily, I thought your Ravnica set review was done. Why would you do such a thing? I've already had to endure a full week of it, and I'm only here for your channel for Dungeons & Dragons. Well, don't worry, Dungeons & Dragons will be coming soon, but I wanted to talk about Ravnica for one more time, because I didn't really talk about, Commander, and in my set review I very much just focused on limited aspects of it, and tonight I want to kind of talk about Commander and the cards I'm excited for in Commander from the set. It's not a full set review, it's more of like a highlight of the 70 cards that I like most. I actually don't know the exact number of how many I pulled, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all of them, but specifically these are the cards I am planning on putting into my cube. I recently built a cube, and I will be doing a video talking about that, but I have some other things I need to set up about it, and get organized. But in short, it is a Commander cube where, if you don't know, cubes are sets of cards that you are kind of like your own custom drafting format. So instead of opening packs, you put together packs from the cube, and you kind of draft like that. But this one is a Commander cube, so you're not building a 40 card limited deck, you're building an 100 card Commander deck. With the Commander and all the color identities and all the multiplayer fun of Commander in cube form. So that's one thing. It's 8 packs of 15 cards for the main draft, and you have 2 more packs of 15 for the lands draft. So it's a lot of stuff that you go through, but it's a lot of fun. I have drafted Commander Cube before, and I'm like, I knew I wanted to build one of these one of the days, but that's a video for another time. But I'm just going to be talking about what I'm excited from Guilds of Ravnica to put into that cube. So yeah. Just starting right off with Bounty Agent. This was the 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance. I'm not going to dwell too much on the stats of the cards in this set review, unlike the limited ones, because unless the stats are specifically impressive or important in some way, that's not really what you care about in Commander. You care about what the card does other than there's just raw stats. Although you do care about their casting costs, but that's important. But this one, which is just a Bear of Upside and limited, is actually really good because you can sacrifice or destroy a legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. And guess what there's a lot of in Commander? There's legendary creatures. There's a lot of them. It's almost like the format's kind of built around them. So it's a kind of a 2-mana removal spell for a problematic commander or something, and sometimes they'll hit like a Search for Azcanta or something like that, or an artifact if you want to just blow up someone's soul ring because they're going off and you want them to be salty at you for the rest of the game. You can do that, and she's just real good, and honestly will be, I think, a mono white staple in Commander. No, there we go. Next up is Citywide Bust, which is 1 white for sorcery. Destroy all creatures of toughness 4 or greater. That's one thing my cube does need, is it does need just more board wipes, and while not an unconditional board wipe, this one is it's a cool one. It's very specific. I like kind of the situational board wipes that focus on specific things, and this one encourages very low to the ground aggro, and will blow up all their big dumb green creatures and whatnot, and yeah, no, I do like Citywide Bust, and that's gonna just be, board wipes are usually good, and playing around with them. One of the benefits of a cube, just like Commander, is that there's really no harm in trying out a single card in a deck, and it's definitely, some of them I might find just don't play well with the themes that the cube has going on, but will be neat nonetheless. Next up is Crush Contraband, which is 3 white for an instant. Choose one or both. Exile target artifact, or exile target enchantment. So this is, a lot of people compare it to Return to Dust, which is 2 white for an instant that is I believe it's just destroy target artifact or enchantment, but if you cast this on your turn, you get to do 2 artifacts enchantments. So this one's a bit differently. It's a bit less restrictive. It's only mono white, or 1 white, I should say, which is important for this cube that I'm making, because this cube is based around 3 and 4 color decks, because the cube reflects how I build decks and like what I love in deck building for a commander, and part of that is putting just way too many colors in my decks. So the single cost does help in there. But the fact that it requires you to hit an artifact or enchant and an enchantment, you can't have 2 artifacts, 2 enchantments, but it also exiles them, which is like a nice one, but overall just, there's lots of problematic artifacts and enchantments running around in Commander, and this takes care of them quite well, and at instant speed, so, yeah. Next up is a Dawn of Hope, which is 1 white for an enchantment. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. And you may pay 3 and a white to make a 1/1 soldier token with lifelink. For a token deck, like, this isn't super useful. Like, 4 mana is a lot of mana to like create something, but it is not a bad like mana sink if you just have excess mana lying around. For any sort of like life gain shell, and also just in mono white, because you can, I found you can build monocolor, like in some test drafts I did. I've only drafted monocolor once in the deck cube, but it was a sweet Yargle Voltron deck. Well, more like Yargle Aristocrats with Voltron elements. All of the decks in Commander Cube do end up being kind of like this midway point between decks, and one thing that is different about my cube is that you do most Commander cubes, you get to you draft your deck and then you kind of choose your commander afterwards to fit your deck. But for mine, you do have to draft your commanders. But to make it a bit more flexible, I treat all 1 and 2 color commanders to have partner. So all of a sudden, like, a lot of the fringe playable commanders actually open a lot of versatility and stuff, like Valdu Keeper the Flame, who is the mono red guy who makes for all the equipments he has, he makes like 3/1 elementals. But you're like, but he's mono red, and mono red isn't great at doing equipment stuff. But then you can throw in some other colors to him, and all of a sudden he becomes a lot more interesting with partner. And there's a lot of kind of like recent standard commanders that just aren't enough in there in there that kind of like this it also just gives just cool combinations and flexibilities it allows, but I shouldn't talk about that too much because that's a different video. But back to Dawn of Hope. It's just a nice card draw engine. Life gain is one of my favorite archetypes, and it's an archetype within the cube. Although it needs a bit more support because I need to pick up some of the life gain cards because a lot of them are in a still built deck. I actually took apart all but 3 of my decks. I took apart like 10 decks. But Abzan Life Gain is still one of the ones together, and it has some of the pieces that I need to pick up some duplicates of. But yeah, no, Dawn of Hope, it does 2 things that are like, it's fine. It's like, it's no, what is that? Not Door of Destinies, but, not Fountain Renewal. It's the Fountain one that whenever you gain life, you can play like X, whereas X is the amount of life you gain, you can draw that many cards. But, I mean, it also the fact that it also makes tokens that you can use to enable it is also nice. Next up is Divine Visitation, which is 3 white and a white for an enchantment. And it changes any tokens you create. It makes them instead be created as a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So, another major archetype in here is kind of like a general like token strategies, and this just turns them to be just great. I found this in the pre-release. I got to twice go Divine Visitation into Tristani Discordant, so I could like just make this 1/4 and then come down with like 10 power in the air, flying vigilance, which is sweet. But I'm really excited to play with this card in Cube. Like, in Commander, there's not much to say about it, but like, in any sort of like deck that is making a lot of tokens, so like Reese or like a Rune Flicker deck or Talrand, although actually Talrand doesn't benefit that much from it. It's just it doubles their power, but it's not the same as like as a deck that makes like a bunch of little guys. But you get what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of like ways to make a bunch of tokens, and a lot of them end up being 1/1s, and this turns them into 4/4s, so that's pretty sweet. Light of the Legion, which is a 6-mana 5/5 flying with Mentor. Mentor is one of those mechanics where it just doesn't play well in Commander often. Like, unless you're abusing the +1/+1 counters, the fact that it requires you to go into combat and requires like it's just very specific situations, and it's such an aggressive mechanic that you can play aggro in Commander, but it typically is not at its strongest in this format. That said, when this creature also dies, you get to put +1/+1 counters on all your white creatures, and the fact that it does attack very much better than most miniature creatures do. It's just like I don't really have a huge +1/+1 counter theme built into this cube. I want to add more support for it, but I don't have it just isn't there yet. But it does kind of just like spew out a lot of +1/+1 counters. That said, also the threshold for cards in both white and red are a bit lower than the other colors, just because the general things that they're good at aren't as good in Commander. So there's less cards of those colors. That said, also, right now I'm just still in the process of like expanding the cube. I want to get to the point where there's about 200 non-Commander cards in each of the colors before I like making cuts and stuff and swapping them out, because I feel like that's a good level to give the needed variety for the cube, and also want to make sure I have enough to draft with 8 people if I need to. Although it drafts fine to 4. But yeah, no, this one just does enough if you have those +1/+1 counter themes. And yeah, no, it's just fine. And that lower bar for white just makes it. Alright, on to blue. First up we have Dream Eater, which is a 6-mana 4/3 flash flying. When it ETBs, surveil 4. And when you do, return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So, all of these effects individually aren't really something you want alone in Commander. Like, a 6-mana 4/3 flash flying, you don't care about that. Balancing a permanent to your opponent's hand, I mean, on a body that you can, like, flicker, that's not bad. Surveil 4 is not bad for enabling any sort of graveyard things you want to do, as well as just kind of like card selection. But the fact is, it's just when you stable them all together, this just ends up being just a real solid card. There's like, imagine this with like anything like a Deadeye Tormentor, Deadeye Navigator, just like or any sort of flicker themes. Flicker is a major theme in this set because I like flickering things, and this is just an amazing flicker target in any sort of like Rune or Brago strategy, and just like it just does so much. Next up is Mission Briefing. This is the Snapcaster Mage. It's blue for an instant, surveil 2, and then you get to essentially give a card in your graveyard flashback. And yeah, I mean, Snapcaster is a card, and being able to like recast your spells and stuff isn't bad, and there's lots of effects that you'll want this in Commander. There's not much to say about this. It's not as good as Snapcaster because you can't flicker it. It's harder to recur, but I mean, it still does things. Next up is Murmuring Mystic, which is a 4-mana 1/5 that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, make a 1/1 bird illusion creature token with flying. I mean, it's bad Talrand, but a bad Talrand is still not a bad Talrand. I mean, the Spellslinger is an archetype that you can play, and this makes blockers if you need to it, and tokens, and it's good supplemental in any sort of token strategy, and it's just not bad. it just does what it needs to do in kind of like a spell slinger, cast a bunch of spells kind of deck, and yeah. Also, bird illusions. But like I said, some of these just, they don't have a lot to say, but I'm just like, oh, this is cool, and I'm gonna try it out on the cube. Next up is Omnispell Adept, which is a 4-mana 3/4. You can pay 2 into blue, tap it to cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost. Well, this is a card that was like made for Commander. Like, oh, 2 into blue, tap you, cast Enter the Infinite. Okay, tap 2 into blue, tap it, cast Praetor's Council. Okay, but it does a lot in Commander, and just being able to cheat your mana cost on this is just kind of good. It's like limited. It's like, oh, I'm already at 5 mana, like I can already cast most of my instants of sorceries, but it's like, oh, well, how about you cast this like 10 mana sorcery? I actually don't know how much Enter the Infinite is. I think it's 10, but yeah, no. There's just a lot of stuff that just wants to cast. Next up is Quasi Duplicate, which is a 3-mana sorcery that's create a token that's a copy of target token you control with Jumpstart. Jumpstart's not a bad mechanic for EDH, but it just turns out that a lot of the jump stop cards just aren't things that you want to be running in general in EDH. But I mean, copying things you have is one of those things that's actually kind of useful in EDH, and generally you're running good creatures, and this is good with any sort of flicker strategy, because while it's not flickering it, you are creating a new one that then enters the battlefield. If you're doing anything with like tokens and proliferate, like you all of a sudden can like proliferate other things, or like a Temnet deck that you can duplicate your Blight Steel and then swing in with an unblockable Blight Steel. There's just so many situations where this is useful, and the fact that you get 2 creatures out of it is real nice. Next up is Sinister Sabotage, which is 1 blue for a counter target spell with Surveil 1. I mean, it's a counter spell. It's not a bad one for Commander. Surveil 1's not bad for, like I said, like enabling graveyard stuff, which there's a lot of that in Commander, and yeah, no, it's not much to say. It's just, I mean, Dissolve's a good card in Commander, isn't a bad card in Commander, and neither will be. Sinister Sabotage is honestly, I think, a little bit better for Commander. Alright, on to black, we have Doom Whisperer, which is a 5-mana 6/6 flying trample, which is impressive stats, which is like, actually, at that point, the stats are like, actually kind of like useful, because that's like, those are just very efficient stats, and that's still 6 power in the air. It's like, you don't want to like be paying cards that are just power and toughness, but I mean, power and toughness does kill people. But you can also pay 2 life to surveil 2. I mean, paying your life is like, there's lots of situations where it's useful, and you can use that to fill up your graveyard, which is something that black wants to do, and things like that, and yeah, it's just on a decent body as is, so Doom Whisperer is not bad. There's not much to say. Except it's creepy as all hell. Like, it's a nightmare demon. Like, demons weren't nightmarish enough. Like, no. Next is Gruesome Menagerie, which is a 5-mana sorcery that choose a creature card with confirming has 1 in your graveyard, then do the same for 2 and 3, and return to the battlefield. So it's like a mass reanimate for a bunch of small things, which I think is really good, in, like, especially like any sort of like aristocrats deck, because like a lot of the cards that you want in that deck are kind of small anyway, because like you can get your Blood Altars, your Viscera Seer, and something else, and you can back 3 cards for one thing and bring them back, and especially if you're like dumping your graveyard into your library into your graveyard to get a bit more selection. I mean, it's not the best reanimation spell, but I mean, there's a lot of situations where it's just not bad. Magali the Secrets. This is 1 black for an instant that you can search your library for black card with CMC with Undergrowth. So, how many creatures you have, you get to search for a black card with that CMC. I'm not huge on tutors in EDH. Like, I don't mind them, but like things that are just like unconditional, like the more restrictive ones, but things that are just like vampiric and demonic tutor, which are just like, yes, pay this cheap mana cost, and then go get whatever you want. And I like this one because A, it only finds black cards, and B, it does make you work for the card. It requires some setup, and it's a couple hoops that I don't mind. You then get to pay 2 at instant speed to find what you need. So, yeah, no, I don't mind this. It can grab you like board wipes for removal and stuff, and this one's good at like picking up answers and whatnot, and yeah, no, I like it. Next up is Midnight Reaper. It's a 3-mana 3/2 that whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you deals 1 damage to you and draw a card. I mean, it's card advantage. Any sort of like aristocrat's strategy, or even just kind of like anti-board wipe insurance. Like, oh yeah, don't wipe my board, otherwise I'll just like draw like a new hand of 7. And yeah, no, it's just good card advantage on a body. Also in 2 very important tribes. Like, those are like notable tribes, so both zombies and knights, so tribal is normally not a thing in cubes, but I actually figured out a way around that, and I'll leave that for the actual video when I talk about how I handle making tribal work in Commander Cube. Okay, next was Necrotic Loot, which is black for an instant with undergrowth, where it gives a creature -X/-X, where X is your undergrowth value, so the number of creatures in your graveyard. So, I mean, it's 1 mana removal. It requires some setup, but honestly, I think this is just not bad mono black removal. Like, it's not unconditional, but because it does require you to fill up your graveyard a bit. But it's 1 mana, instant speed. It gets around indestructible, and it's just not bad. It's cheap. It's efficient. It requires a little bit of setup for those like graveyard decks, but there's a fair amount of like enablers for that in this cube, so I like it. Plague Crafter, which is 2 and a black for a 3/2. When it enters battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. I mean, I run all of the Fleshback Marauders, the Merciless Executioner, the 4-mana one, and you know what, this one's not bad either. Like, for any sort of like sacrifice deck, or kind of just general like attrition build, or aristocrats, or most of the black archetypes, this just fits right in. Not much to say. Also, he has a really cool cloak. Price of Fame. It's 3 and a black for an instant. It costs 2 less if it targets a legendary creature. Again, guess what? Commander has a lot of legendary creatures. And you get to destroy a target creature. Well, I mean, I just said that. And then you could do Surveil 2 on top of that. So, I mean, you're going to be killing a lot of legends, especially in this cube where I have a lot of legends. Even in your 99, I'll probably be running a lot of legends. And just 2 mana, kill it, or 4 mana if you need to, and set up your next draw. I mean, this is another card which is definitely going to become a commander staple. Ritual of Suit, which is 2 black for sorcery. Destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. I mean, it's not a board wipe. It hoses token decks, and it's one of those like very like specific situational ones that I like, that it encourages you to build your deck in a certain style to utilize it to its best potential, as well as just being another black board wipe, which is, I mean, black has a fair amount of board wipes, but not nearly as much as white, and more black board wipes is welcome. Alright, on to red. We have Book Devourer, which is a 6 mana 4/5 of trample. And when it enters the battle, or when it deals damage to a player, you may discard all the cards in your hand. If you do, draw that many cards. So it does require a bit of setup, but it gives you kind of like, there's a lot of effects like this. Unfortunately, you can't force other people to do it, so it's not a Nekusar type effect. But for anything like, if you're playing like Niv-Mizzet, or even just want to cycle through your hand, which is useful if you're like in a, if you're playing like mono red or like Boros, or any sort of like situation where you just don't have card advantage, I mean, a 4/5 trample usually will have someone it can connect with, but yeah. No, it's just another way to access kind of like wheel effects, because there's a lot of decks that want to have wheel effects. Electrostatic Field, which is a 2-mana 0/4 defender, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell. It's a bad gutter snipe, but I mean, the deck that wants gutter snipe doesn't mind additional gutter snipes, even if they're not the best gutter snipe. I mean, the fact that it also does to each opponent, like, that is adding like 3 damage to all of your instant sorceries. Like, I don't mind stapling a bolt onto all of my instant sorceries, even if it's spread out, so, yeah. Experimental Frenzy. This is the one of the cards I'm like most excited for kind of playing with in Commander. It's a 4-mana enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play the top card of your library, and you cannot cast cards from your hand. And you may pay 3 in a red to destroy it. I just love this. It's a very like cool way to play. It's like a red, future sight, and in a really cool way with like a cool like drawback, and yeah, no, it's really cool, and I kind of want to play with it. Next up is Goblin Crater Maker, which is a 2-mana 2/2. You may pay 1, sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to any target, or destroy target colorless non-land permanent. I mean, at its base level, it's a recurable, like, artifact removal. I mean, it also hits other things, like it hits, mostly Eldrazi. It hits Eldrazi, but, yeah, no, I think it's just fine. Like, it's, again, the bar is quite low for red, and this is one I could see myself moving over to the Goblin Tail, which you don't know what tails are because I haven't explained that yet, but I will do that in another video where I talk about the cube eventually. But I mean, I think it's just fine. Like, it's a body, it's recurable. It yeah, no, it's just fine. More goblins. We have Legion Warboss, which is a 3-mana 2/2 with Mentor. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. That token gains haste until end of turn and attacks this combat if able. I mean, it makes a token every turn, and I mean, sure that it has to attack, but for any sort of, like, if you're playing like a sacrifice deck where you want to like sacrifice your creature tokens and stuff, or if you just kind of like want to be kind of like an aggressive person, and you know what, it's fine. Like, a guy that makes tokens every turn is something a lot of decks can utilize, and he's cheap at the cost it does. Like, he does have Mentor if you want the +1/+1 counters for anything. So it's like, in a way, those tokens are attacking as 2/2s if you want to, if you have a free person to attack, and yeah, no, I don't mind Legion Warboss. Next up to green, we have Beast Whisperer, which is the 4-mana 2/3 that whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. I mean, this is just a good card. Like, there's not much to say. Card advantage is good. Decks often run creatures. Drawing cards when you play creatures is good. Yay! Yeah, there's just not much to say about this one, but it'll be cool. Next up is Circuitous Route, which is a 4-mana sorcery. Search your land for up to 2 basic land cards and or gate cards, put on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. I mean, it's a better, if you have gates, exclusive vegetation, and ramp is good. Ramping's awesome. Ramping is the most fun thing to do in Magic, in my opinion. I like playing the color green. But yeah, no. I mean, it's exclusive vegetation. Exclusive vegetation is a card and there's debate whether you run it if it should be run as much as it should in Commander decks, but I mean, in Cube, you'll take what you can get. But, yeah. And they're in the Lance Draft, there are gates, so if you pick them up, it can also act as some, like, more advanced fixing, so, yeah. Next up is Hatchery Spider, which is a 7-mana 5/7 reach with Undergrowth. For Undergrowth X, you can, so number of creature cards in your graveyard, you reveal the top X your cards your library, and then you get to put a creature with converted mouse X or less on the battlefield. So, it's kind of like, I mean, obviously you want to play this late game, but obviously by the time you have 7 mana, you probably have some things in your graveyard, and the fact that it comes with another thing is nice. Unfortunately, it is on cast, so you can't, like, do dumb flicker stuff with it, but, yeah, no, it helps get things out of there and gives you selection from the next creature you want, and, yeah, I think it's fine. It's not too flashy, and it's one of those ones that, like, might be a pick to get rid of, but, yeah. It's also a spider, which is gross. I hate spiders. Next up is Pelt Collector, which is 1 green for a 1/1. Whenever a creature enters battlefield or dies, if that creature is a power greater than Pelt Collector's, put a +1/+1 counter on Pelt Collector. And has trample as long as it has 3 more +1/+1 counters. Like I said, I kind of want to like start building up a +1/+1 counter theme in this cube, and this is just one. Like, it's a creature that's like, it is just power and toughness. But if you have anything that cares about power, like +1/+1 counters, like this gets them very easily and instantly. It's not as good as some evolved creatures, but he's just really cheap, and I'll try him out. There's not much else to say. Next up is Sprouting Renewal, which is 2 green for sorcery. It has Convoke, and you can either make a 2/2 Night creature token of Vigilance, or you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. For the most part in Commander, you'll be using this as a 3-mana Convoke Naturalize. I mean, the set just needs kind of like a density of Naturalize effects, and this is a cool one, and I like it. It's not great in Commander, it's like objectively very mediocre, but it does its job. Next is Urban Utopia, which there's a lot of cards like this in general, but it's 1 green for an enchantment, for an enchant land. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. So it's fixing, it replaces itself, isn't bad, it can be flickered, it is good for kind of any sort of like Enchantress or Aura based builds that cares about those things, and I mean, it replaces itself, so it's like the cost of playing it is not high. And because the cube is based off of 4 and 5 color decks, like 3 to 5 color decks, the fixing isn't bad. So, it's not a good card by any means, but I think it's good enough. Also, it's very nice art. Next is Vivid Revival, which is a 5-mana sorcery. Return up to 3 target multicolored cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Vivid Revival. I mean, because it is 3 and 4 color decks, you are going to be running a fair few multicolored cards, and this is kind of like you get 3 of them back. Now again, not much to say, it just kind of like gives you back, like, you can be in a situation where you just don't have 3 in your graveyard, but, I don't think, like, I have a lot of multicolored cards that in the cube and almost a problematic number of them, and I should probably scale back some of them, but it's enough that you'll have targets for this. Alright, on to the gold cards. First up we have Assassin's Trophy. Because Assassin's Trophy, this card is good in every format it's legal in. It's black and a green for destroy target permanent opponent controls, and its controller may search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. It's just unconditional removal. It's just very good. Also, it's like, this obviously happened recently when Prania, poor Sphinx friend, like, before Vraska did this, like, how is it already so overgrown? Like, when did this happen go, like, at most, like, maybe a month ago? I don't know. Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice. This is the first Legends. Almost all the Legends I'll be considering putting into the cube, just because, A, you need to draft your commanders, so maintaining a high number of commanders in the cube. Also, I just like legendary creatures, and I kind of want to, like I said, I kind of want to collect every single one of them. But also a lot of them are really cool. Aurelia is a 2-mana, 2 red and a white for a 2/5 of flying and mentor, and beginning of combat on your turn. You essentially, it gets +2/+0, and then depending on if it's red or white, it gets Vigilance Trample. This is probably not, because also remember that because in this cube it's considered to have partner because it's 2 colors or less. And yeah, no, that's just it. She does a words that mean things. For any sort of, like, she's an amazing, like, she's fine, but for some sort of like as half of like a +1 counter strategy, since she's not bad, as well as just any like kind of like aggressive beatdown. Like, she does stuff like she herself like isn't bad as an attacker because she does attack on her own as a 4/5 flying Vigilance Trample, so she can hold equipment and stuff quite well, and then give counters to other people you have. So, is she amazing in Commander? I don't think so, but she's certainly not bad. Which is about what you can say for most Boros commanders, unfortunately. Camaraderie, which is 4 green-white for sorcery. You gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This draws so many cards in the right deck. I mean, even in non-right deck, it's very plausible to like get a fair few creatures out and just draw a lot of cards with this. Of course, there will be that moment where you cast Camaraderie and get Cyclonic Rift in response, but just the potential to draw so many cards with this is just so high. And the fact that it also sets up your creatures, gives them a small buff to like prepare for an attack, and gives you some life buffering, is just all upside. But I mostly like it because it can draw so many cards. It's like that, I think, Shamanic Revelation from Cons, and it's similar to that and not bad. Chance for Glory. 1 red and a white for an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose the game. Alright, well, there's a lot of situations where just getting 2 turns in a row, especially if we're set at cheap cost, will just win you the game in Commander, because you'll have enough time to execute whatever you need to do, and it kind of messes up everyone else's math. And again, also there's then other ways to cheat yourself so you don't lose the game. So yeah, like, I mean, okay, ways that you can get around this: Platinum Angel, Sundial of the Infinite, Gideon of the Trials Emblem. Like, there's a lot of ways to just not lose the game. This just becomes take an extra turn card. But I mean, even if not, like, there's a lot of situations where just taking the extra turn will win you the game. And that's an effect that Boros doesn't have much. And giving your creatures indestructible is honestly also useful in kind of situations. Like, especially if it's a situation where it's like, the person's like wrathing the board, and like, okay, so it's even if it's not your turn, this is an instant, so they wrath the board because it's like, oh no, the Boros player has a big scary board state. They board wrath. Okay, no, I chance for glory. All my stuff doesn't die. Now all of you stuff people have no board state, and now I get an extra turn after this one to kill all of you. Or die trying. And you know what? That's a very Boros way to go. So, it'll be fun testing it out. And like I said, like Boros does need a bit more cards in my cube. Next one is probably my most questionable choice in these picks, which is Conclave Guildmage. I will admit that my softness for the Selesnya is influencing my including this card. It's a green and a white for 2/2. You may pay green and tap it to give your creatures trample till end of turn. Which is like not the most expensive thing in the world. Like, it's the worst archetype of aggression, but yeah. And you can pay 6 mana and tap it to create a 2/2 green white elf knight creature type of vigilance. You know what? No, this isn't going in. No, I'm just talking myself out of it. This just doesn't do enough. It's just too expensive. Like, Dawn of Hope, like 3 and a white to make a soldier at 1/1 is fine. Like, that one's not bad. Doesn't require you to tap it though, and it's an enchantment, so it's hard to remove. Yeah, no, this isn't going into there. Sorry, Conclave Guildmage. You're not like the V2 Quasi Guildmage who can just proliferates. Like, now that's an effect I like. That's a Crackling Drake, which is a blue, red for a X4 flying, which X is equal to the number of instant sorcery cards in your exile and graveyard, and when you're battlefield, draw a card. I mean, it's just a solid person in, like, creatures that, like, cycle themselves just are usually not bad, and the fact that this can actually get quite big in Commander, both if you're playing Spellslinger or if you're, like, aggressively milling yourself. And then the fact that it also fits into, like, any sort of, like, flicker effects and stuff like that, so I just like Crackling Drake. I think it's just a good card. I mean, it's nothing amazing, but I think it's fine. Deafening Clarium, which is 1 red and a white for choose one or both. It deals 3 damage to each creature, or creatures you control get lifelink in a turn. Like I said in Limit Review, you're mostly doing this because it does 3 damage to all creatures. Giving everything lifelink is, I guess, fine. Like, in Commander, your stuff is more likely to survive, but, I mean, not super more likely to survive. But, and, like, the lifelink, I mean, you're gonna have more impressive board states in Commander, so that lifelink could represent actually a very large life swing. We're most playing this as, like, an extra board wipe in Boros. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Next up is Amara, Soul of the Accord, which is green and a white for 2/2, and whenever she becomes tapped, make a 1/1 white soldier token of lifelink. Like, there's obviously combos you can do, like, there's, like, cards that combo well of her. Honestly, she's fine in Commander. She's nothing, like, super amazing, but she's fine. I love her, though. She's great. She's good at the pre-release. But yeah, obviously, token strategies, but she's also just a legend. And, like, not a bad one. She's not great, but, not as bad as some other legends, like Amara Tandris. Now, Amara Tandris could really learn a thing or two from Amara, Soul of the Accord. Next up is Atrada the Silencer, which is 2 black and a blue for a 3/5 that cannot be blocked, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on it. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled creatures hit with hit counters on them, and then you shuffle Atrada into your library. So obviously there's cool things you can do with this, like Helm of the Host and Rings of Bright Hearth and things like that, but I mean, it's also just kind of like, it's removal on a command of someone you could have in your command zone, and there's cool things you can do with the alt win condition in Commander. They will be harder to do in the cube because it requires very specific pieces to make work well, but otherwise I think in the cube she'll just be solid, if not like as kind of just like having removal stapled onto your Commander. Yeah, she's not bad. She's real nice. And she seems really cool for building in her deck outside of like a cube environment, so yeah. Firemind's Research, which is blue and red for an enchantment, which a just terrible and atrocious in Limited, and I think is still not great in Commander. But you put a charge counter on it whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell. You pay 1 and a blue and remove 2 counters from it to draw a card, and 1 and a red to remove 5 counters from it and deals 5 damage to any target. I mean, at the base level, honestly, what this is mostly doing is making all of your instances of sorceries draw half a card, which, you know what, isn't bad if you have that critical mass of instances of sorceries if you're playing a Spellslinger deck. So, yeah, no, I think it's fine. And sometimes you just need to, remove something, and it gives you that option too. Obviously it's good if you have any sort of proliferate things going on. I don't have an Atraxa yet, but I definitely need to get an Atraxa for the cube, but Atraxa is over $10. Obviously, Inexorable Tide and things like that, kind of lets you kind of cheat this a little bit, but yeah, no. It just will actually do stuff in Commander, unlike doing almost nothing in Limited. Next up is Golkar Feinbroker, which is black, green for a 3/4, that when it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. It's just an efficient creature. It's a more expensive Eternal Witness, but I mean, Eternal Witness that's a little bit more expensive, but if it did beefier stats, is still fine. You can flicker them, get more stuff back. Yeah, it's just fine. Next up is House Guild Mage, which is blue and a black for a 2/2. Its first mode you don't really care about. You can pay 1 the blue and tap it to ice something down so it doesn't untap, which isn't useful really in Commander. But the main thing is that you can pay 2 and a black to Surveil 2. So card selection, flip your graveyard. It's a little expensive, but Surveil 2, if you just want to be 3 and black, mill myself 2, it's fine. It's a body that can be recurred or block if you need to, and yeah. And I guess if you need to, you can ice down someone's Blightsteel that you're scared of or something. Ionize, 1 blue-red for an instant, counter target spell, it deals 2 damage to the spell's controller. It's just a fine counterspell. There's nothing fancy, no frills to it. 2 damage isn't tons, it isn't amazing, but it's just fine. Oney, 1000 eyed. It's 2 black, green, so 6 mana for 2/3 legend, so you can do that. When it enters battlefield, make a 1/1 black and green insect creature token for each creature in your graveyard. Undergrowth in general is just going to be a lot stronger in Commander because there's just so many better ways to artificially fill your graveyard. Because the Golkar you so much rely on in Limited, kind of just things naturally dying and not self-mill to the extreme. Oney having partner in my cube will make it a lot better since you'll have access to blue, which is a lot better at self-milling yourself. But also, Oney you can also pay black green to sack a creature and drain life and draw a card, which isn't bad for any sort of kind of aristocrats type strategy, and yeah, no. Oney's just not real solid. And again, he's so cool to flicker. So many insect tokens. Next up is Justice Strike, which is red and a white for an instant. Target creature deals power to itself, damage to itself equal to its power. It's just removal for Boros. I mean, white has some very good removal, for Commander, notably Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. And that's where its good removal kind of ends, because most of the rest of it isn't enchantment based. And that usually isn't what you want to do, because it's mostly instant speed, and any sort of all permanent board wipe, they get their creature back after the board wipe, which isn't ideal. And red just is terrible in Commander for removal, because you're just relying on damage. This one relies on damage, but it scales with kind of the size of the creature. Now, obviously, it requires its power to be greater than its toughness, obviously, but I'll try it out. I'm just helping give Boros a leg up. I need to help Boros as much as I can. Next up is Knight of Autumn, which is 1 white and a 1 blue and a green for a 2/1 with when it enters battlefield, choose 1. Put a 2+1 some counters on it, so it's a 4/3 for 2 for 3, which is like you're not really excited about in Commander, but like it is +1 some counters if you have other things that care about that. Or you destroy target artifact or enchantment. That's probably the mode you're mostly be using for her. You could be using her as kind of like a Rec Sage, which you can like flicker. Or you can gain 4 life if you have things that care about triggering off of life gain. So, I mean, for the most part, in Commander, she'll be an additional Rec Sage, Reclamation Sage, but... And then she'll have upside for situationally when you need other things, so... Yeah. Lazav, the Multifarious, which is blue and a black for a 1/3. And when it's battlefield, Surveil 1. You don't really care about that much, like that's hardly anything. That said, 2-drop Commander is real nice because 2-drop Commanders come out early, you can recast them for pretty cheap. You can also pay X and have it become a copy of a card in your graveyard with converted mana cost X. So it doesn't let you really cheat the mana cost besides color restrictions, and you do kind of want some self-mill to make it good, but in many ways you kind of think of him that he's kind of like a reanimator effect, which is, I mean, pretty cool, like kind of like a recursion. Yeah. No, and he does block early aggression, which is nice, like having like a guaranteed true 2-drop is just not bad, and the fact that he can become quite scary later on. And also notably, he can become quite scary, and with that scariness, still deal commander damage by whatever is in your graveyard. So you reanimate him as some big scary person that deals a lot of damage, you can just expand with that. So, yeah. Next up is Lee Guildmage, which is blue and a red for a 2/2. You pay 4 and tap it to draw a card. I mean, it's a bit expensive to draw a card, but I mean, sometimes you just have extra mana and want to draw a card, because who doesn't like drawing a card? And you can play X and a red to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control for the mana cost X, and you can choose new targets. I mean, both those things, like copying something, like duplicating like a removal spell or something is real nice, and when you have extra mana that you're not using, drawing a card, it's not bad. Also, she looks cool. March of the Multitudes, which is X, green, white, white for an instant with Convoke, to create X, 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. This just makes a lot of tokens, and the more tokens you have when you cast it, means you get more tokens. Obviously, it's best if you are kind of like in that go white token stack, and this gets you more tokens, which is exactly what that deck wants to do. It also just makes you a bunch of guys you want to like sacrifice them for any sort of aristocrat style, like, even if you're not like swinging into attack and whatnot. And yeah, no, they also all have lifelink if you care about that, if you're doing any sort of life gain strategy, and yeah, no, just real cool. It's also Selesnya, so it's great. Next up is Mnemonic Betrayal, which is 1 blue and black, which is kind of like, this is kind of like the Yawgmoth's Will for your opponent's graveyards, which is you exile all cards from your opponent's graveyards and then you can cast them this turn and then they return at the end of the turn. So obviously in Limited it's not great, but in Commander this is just real nice. Like late game, you're gonna have lots of mana to cast different things from your graveyards. Their graveyards could be nice and full, and this will just give you your pickings of what they got, and I like that. Not much else to say, but yeah, no, that's real solid. Niv-Mizzet Payroon, which is blue, 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 red, 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 for a 5/5 that can't be countered, has flying, and whenever you draw a card, Niv-Mizzet deals 1 damage to any target. Okay, so pretty standard Niv-Mizzet thing, but whenever a player, not you, a player casts an instant sorcery spell, you draw a card. Obviously, like, the Niv-Mizzet Draco Genius is the one that deals damage when you draw a card instead of it deals damage you draw a card. No, Firemind. Firemind's that one. Draco Genius, Firemind, when it deals damage, it draws a card, and the other two are the other way around. And this one kind of like encourages more of kind of like a spell slinger thing, although often will just be incidental card draw as well. So yeah, no. Obviously, he works not as well with partner because he's very restrictive casting costs, and you probably don't want to be running 3 or 4 colors with him. That said, you can just link him up with another Izzet commander and probably be pretty happy. So yeah, just an Izzet. Real good. Real good. Notion Rain, which is 1 blue and a black for a sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. Notion Rain deals 2 damage to you. I mean, it's Read the Bones, but with Surveil, and Read the Bones is a solid card draw spell, even in Commander. Like, its selection, it gets you cards immediately. It's not like long-term card advantage, but it gets what you need fast when you need it, so it's just real solid. Ral, Izzet Viceroy. Another thing that's allowed is that in the cube is that Brawl, Planeswalkers can be your commander. So Ral is 3 blue and a red for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. +1 is you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in your hand and the other graveyard. Fills your graveyard, draws your cards. I'm in. -3 is it deals damage equals the number of instant sorcery cards you own in your exile and graveyard to a creature. I mean, removal, not bad, especially under commander. And -8, which in multiplayer you're not likely to get, which is an emblem that says, when you cast a sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target, and you draw 2 cards. Notably, if you do have a doubling season out, you can just ultimate him immediately. But doubling season isn't in my cube, and you can't play him as a commander in other formats and stuff like that, but he just seems real solid. His 2 abilities are, even if you're not a spellslinger deck, you're gonna have instances of sorceries, and sometimes you just gotta, bolt someone. But otherwise, just, that recurring card advantage is real nice. Next up is Swiftblade Vindicator, which is red and white for 1/1 with double strike, vigilance, and trample. This cube has a minor equipment theme, although not super supported, but there is kind of an auras, enchantress theme, and this is just a creature that holds auras quite well, all those totem armors and things like that. It's nice, good, base broth of keyword soup that you can add all sorts of auras and enchantment, or auras and equipment to, and holds them quite well. It's quite cheap. Yeah, no, it's not bad. It's a nice aggressive creature that can come out of the gates running. Next up is Tajik, Legion's Edge, which is 1 red and a white for a 3/2 with haste, mentor, and you get to prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. So all of a sudden, things like your, the Blazing Clarion, I think it was called in this set, but also Anger of the Gods or Sweltering Suns, Blasphemous Axe, Ixalan, Star of Extinction, all those are now become one-sided board wipes. You can also give him First Strike, and he has Haste and Mentor, but I think the coolest part of this guy, in terms of just as a commander, is just the preventing all non-combat damage to creatures you control, which allows you to do things like that, where you can make a lot of these cool normally wrath effects be one-sided wraths, which is cool. Also, you can make things bigger because he has Mentor and things like that, but yeah. Next up is Thief of Sanity, which is 1 blue and a black for a 2/2 flying. When it deals damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of the player's library, exile 1, and then you can get to cast it. He's a their Gonti effect, do specters have gender? That's an important thing to ask. But they kind of like Gonti on contact, and typically people are running good cards in commander decks, and it's cool to play with other people's decks, and it's just a fun effect. And also a good effect, that it kind of draws a card, but it gives you good card selection from your opponent's library, which is fun. It's the thing that's better than killing your opponents is killing opponents with their own cards, and this helps you do that. 1,000-Year Storm, which is 4 blue-red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant or sorcery spell you've cast before this turn. So it gives all of your instants and sorceries Pseudo Storm, which is definitely the exact kind of build-around card I want to play with in Commander. I mean, for any sort of like Spellslinger deck, this is just like, yes, let me storm off with all my cards that aren't supposed to have Storm. Yeah, no, this is just really cool, and I like it. It'll be fun. Next is Tristani Discordant, which is 3 green and a white for 1/4. It gives all your creatures +1/+1. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white soldier creatures tokens of lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, each player gain control of all creatures they own. I mean, none of these effects are used super, like, great, like, super, like, groundbreaking or exciting, but I mean, she's just a solid person. Like, if you want to be playing these for, like, go wide token strategy, she's great to flicker. Honestly, I think she's best in the 99 of a deck, because she just doesn't, I mean, she's good, but she's definitely a lot more supportive. Although if partner, like, you can pair her up with, like, a better token creator, things like that, and she'll just be quite solid. Yeah. I mean, Anthem effects aren't bad, and, she's good at that. Hi, Tristani, I love you. You're amazing. Underrealm Lich. 3 black-green for 4/3. And if you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library and put 1 in your hand and the rest in your graveyard. I mean, Golkar Commander wants to fill up their graveyard, and this fills up their graveyard very well. I mean, there's not much to say. Like, it's just very good at enabling graveyard shenanigans. You can also pay 4 life and make it indestructible, which is not bad. Like, it can survive through board wipes, which isn't bad, so... I mean, Commander, like, paying 4 life is a lot less impactful than in 20 life format, so... Underrealm Lich, just real solid card, and honestly is good even if you're not, like, exploiting the graveyard stuff. That's just such great card selection. Next was Vraska, Golgari Queen, which is 2 black and a green for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. +2, you can sacrifice another permanent. If you do, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. I mean, if you have anything that's making tokens and stuff, which, I mean, they're around a lot, and sort of any sort of like aristocrats build, like, I mean, it lets you turn them into cards. And -3 is destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. That's less exciting. I mean, most of the stuff that's scaring Commander is going to be bigger. And her ultimate, which is not likely to come off. I mean, her plus ability is a +2, and this is a -9 ultimate. But you can emblem with, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Obviously, this is a very powerful ultimate, but you're honestly not going to get to that point. Like, most likely. That said, I think she's fine, like, as kind of like a card advantage engine if you have to sacrifice stuff, but otherwise she's not amazing. There's better planeswalkers, but she's sexy, so, yeah, in she goes. Also, she's a legendary planeswalker, so I want her in there. Connive and Concoct. Connive is a sorcery, gain control of target creature with power 2 or less. I mean, it's not same-see, and there's lots of, like, scary things of power 2 or less that you want to gain control of. Concoct surveils 3, and then get to return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield for 5 mana. I mean, reanimation effects are not bad, especially in blue-black. You'll usually be wanting to do stuff with that, and surveil 3 is good card advantage. And that's just good for when, like, there isn't something you want to steal. that's like, small and cheap. I mean, it's just a nice flexible card for Tamir. Then Discovery and Dispersal. Discovery is 2 mana for Surveil 2, then draw a card. It's not exciting, but I mean, it does stuff. Dispersal is each opponent returns a non-land permanent they control with the highest converted mana cost to their hand, and then they discard a card. I mean, the first side isn't exciting, but it's kind of like an opt-like effect. And then Dispersal is instant speed. It's a 3-for-1, and yeah, it's just not bad. 3-for-1 and tempo play. Expansion and Explosion. Create instant expansion is 2 mana for copies target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less, and you may choose new targets with a copy. Notably, you don't actually have to control the spell, so you can like redirect someone else, or not redirect, but copy someone else's path to exile and get someone else and something like that. But an explosion is X blue, red, and it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. Obviously, I mean, you're going to get a lot of mana in Commander by the end of the game, and this is both a good finisher if you have any sort of like infinite mana generation combo, or if you just like have a lot of mana and want to draw a bunch of cards. Yeah, no, it's just a good late game finisher. And the first half is also situationally useful, so. Find and Finality. Find is just 2 mana for, this is Golkar this time. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, it's not an exciting effect, but I mean, it's card advantage, which is just fine. It's not what you really want to be doing in Commander, but it's cheap. But Finality is 4 black-green. You may put 2 +1/+1 counters you control, and then all creatures get -4/-4 till end of turn. I mean, it's board wipe. And you theoretically can make one of your things survive a little bit easier. But yeah, -4/-4 will kill a lot of stuff. So, yeah, no. It's one of those ones where it's like both sides are pretty situational when you want them, but them combined makes them not that hard. Next one is Invert and Invent. Invert just switches the power and toughness of up to 2 creatures, which it's mostly just a combat trick, which isn't the most useful thing in Commander. But Invent is a 6 mana instant that you can tutor for instants or sorcery. I think the most common use for Invent will be end of your turn. Okay, everyone, we need a board wipe. I pay 6 mana. I tutor up my board wipe and then I cast it on my turn. I mean, I don't mind tutors because it costs a lot and it's very specific. It's the worst in like, not in Lantern, but Mystical Tutor. But yeah, no, I don't mind it. It's not amazing, but it passes. Response and Resurgence. Response is just a 2 mana deals 5 damage to a target attacking or blocking creature. It's not an effect that's great in Commander, but I mean, it will just sometimes kill something that you need to kill. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, sometimes it'll just be a good removal spell, but because you're mostly playing this for Resurgence, it's not bad. Resurgence is 3 green and a white. Creatures you control get first strike and vigilance till end of turn. After this main phase, there is additional combat phase followed by additional main phase. So essentially, it adds another combat step, which again throws off people's math. And if you're playing kind of like a very aggressive creature-based strategy, this will just kind of just like mow them over. So I respond to Resurgence, like response, not great in Commander, but the fact that it will sometimes be good while you're waiting for a good moment to do Resurgence, I like it. And Status and Statue, which is status is just 1 mana, give target creature +1/+1 and death touch on turn. You're never using that mode. Almost never. Mostly using it for Statue, which is 2 black-green, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. It's a little bit more expensive Putrefy that hits more things. I'm into that. I mean, it's removal that hits a lot of things, so it's kind of like a Golkar Utter End, except it doesn't hit planeswalkers. Next is the Locket cycle. These aren't the best mana ramp in the game, and they're probably not great in most decks, but the fact of the matter is that my cube does require to have, like, because it's a very large cube, I do need to make sure that, like, there is a critical mass of mana rocks and things like that, so I don't mind these actually being in there. Like, they're not bad, but, you know, they'll be going in there. Next up is Chamber Sentry, which I was thinking about this beforehand. I actually might not put it in because it's an X mana 0/0 that enters with +1/+ counter for each color you spent on it. You pay X and remove X +1 counters from it to deal X damage to any target. So it's kind of like a really bad walking ballista. But you can also pay Wooburg to return it from your graveyard to your hand, which is fine, but the fact that it only goes into 5-color decks makes me feel like it's just way too restrictive, and I'm probably going to take it out. So, no thank you to Chamber Sentry. Like, it goes in, like, Ramos, and that is it. So, yeah, not big on it. Wand of Vertebrae, which is just a 1-mana artifact that you can tap it to mill yourself 1, which is, I mean, that's the main effect you're doing for it. It's a cheap clock that will start filling up your graveyard, and a lot of deck, like, especially like Golkar and mono black decks want that. And you may pay 2 and exile it to shuffle 5 cards from your graveyard to your library, which you're not going to be doing in a commander. You're just doing this to provide to start filling your graveyard for reanimation and other things like that. And finally, we have just 1 land. I mean, obviously I need to pick up some other shock lands, but lands are one of those things that I actually have just proxied because they're really needed. And obviously shock lands are good lands for commander decks. I don't need to talk about that. But I'm looking at, like, Guild Mage's Form, which is, it's a filter land, so it's kind of like a painted bluffs and stuff like that. But, so you can pay 1 and tap it. It also taps for colorless to add 1 mana of any color, so it kind of slows down the tempo. But if you spend that color on a multicolored creature spell, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. I mean, most of the time you're going to be filtering to play a multicolored spell, and, I mean, kind of like getting back some of the tempo lost for paying a little bit extra for it with +1 counter isn't bad, and if you have things that care about +1 counters, that's just extra gravy. But otherwise, it's just a filter land, which, especially since these are very, like, the cube is built around very aggressive mana costs, like, not aggressive, very greedy mana bases, this helps with that. And that is it for kind of like what I'm looking at putting in this cube from Guild of Ravnica. I will be doing that video on the actual thing itself soon enough, the cube itself, so I can actually explain future videos a bit more in depth when I talk about, like, poems and tales and things like that. But that'll be coming out in probably next week. But for the rest of next week, we get, for all those of you who are not as into magic, there'll be non-magic content, I promise. But yeah, no, this is a really cool set. I've been enjoying playing with it so far at pre-release, and I'm excited to draft it and do like that. But I'm also excited for a lot of new toys for Commander. Oh yeah. So let me know what you think. Like, do you agree with me that you think that, like, some of the things I've been, like, looking at them just, like, are just terrible and I shouldn't be putting into this cube, or anything that I excluded that, like, how could I ever not think about using that? Let me know, because I want to hear your thoughts. I want to get better. Yeah. Well, until then, I'll talk to you all later, and I hope you have a wonderful night, and may your stories smile upon you.